Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Birds TV with Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan, presented, of course, by DraftKings. And we are excited to have one of the best analysts in the game with us. He's also a good friend of Inside the Birds and a former Eagles quarterback. It's Ron Jaworski. Jaws, we know how busy you are. I can't thank you enough for coming on, Adam, too. We know you got a busy slate, so we really appreciate the time.
No, we love to be busy. Keeps us out of trouble,
Right.
So it's good to be with you, Geoff and Adam, and talking birds is always fun. So hey, let's get to it.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Ron, we're gonna take inventory of everything going on with the Eagles right now. But I wanted to ask you to start off about Carson Wentz, because if we had you on 2 weeks ago when we had Dan Orlovsky on, we'd be talking about everything that was wrong with him from a confidence and a mechanics and everything standpoint. But he's starting to play better. I mean, you see him developing a rhythm with Travis Fulgham there. And what I've wondered for you to help break us down is, why is it Carson, in your estimation, goes through these slumps, these 2 or 3 game slumps where he just looks like a completely different quarterback and then kind of has to be almost nurtured back to being what he is?
Yeah, Geoff, I always like to say it's never one thing. Everyone looks for a specific point of why a player may be doing great or why he's struggling. To me, at the quarterback position, it's very complicated. I think number one, it's your surrounding cast. The quarterbacks in this league historically that play at a very high level have a terrific supporting cast. And right now, this Eagles offense is depleted. From the offensive line to the receiving core, there's not much there to develop continuity that is so important. And I'm not using that as an excuse, because there is a time when you have to elevate your game. When you know, like he did last year for the final 4 games, he elevated his game because, hey, that was the only way the Eagles would get into the playoffs. He had to play great down the stretch, with that makeshift wide receiving core, and he played that way. So it's hard to say, well, he doesn't have the ability to do that, because we've seen it. And I've in that poor start he had, it was puzzling to me as well, because as Adam knows, I hate to make just throwaway comments. I like to look at the tape, formulate an opinion, and be correct in that opinion. And there were some things that bothered me about his game that I was surprised by. The inaccuracy of some of his throws. Throws I've seen him make, all along. I've made it over the last 4 years, just flat out missing them. The mechanics being a little bit off. And I'm a wonk for mechanics. I'm just a big believer, and maybe the way I was coached when I played and the people I've been around when I'm doing ESPN and Monday Night Football and all that. And when you talk to players at a high level and their coaches, it's about, the repetitive accuracy, because your mechanics are strong on every single drop back and throw. And if you fall by the wayside on mechanics, what falls by the wayside is accuracy. And I said it, and Adam knows during draft time, when we talk about quarterbacks and break them down, I always say the most overlooked aspect of evaluating college quarterbacks is accuracy. And we talk about arm strength, mobility, all this, the crazy stuff that makes for good television. But I look for a guy, that has really strong accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, and it's repetitive. And we heard that word from Chip Kelly an awful lot, that repetitive accuracy. And I think that is so important, because that's makes for longevity at the quarterback position and a great career. So even if you do lose some of the guys around you, the receivers, you can still feel confident in yourself to make the throws.
Jaws, as a former quarterback, when you went through struggles, or let's say Carmichael couldn't play that week, Quick couldn't play that week, Charlie Homeboy Smith, number 85, couldn't play that week. See, this is how old I am. I remember these players.
I appreciate mentioning those names, Adam.
Yes. But when some of your pass targets were not there, or a couple of your linemen were not there, was this in your head as a quarterback before the game or during the game?
Not really. I think it's important that you spend the time with those guys that are not getting reps in practice. And oh, by the way, the game has changed so much in my day under the new CBA agreement. And it's another thing that I think impacted Carson, the fact that no offseason workouts, no training camp, literally, no preseason games. The CBA has eliminated offseason workouts. And, you've heard me talk about Mike Quick and Harold Carmichael and those guys. We would spend Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, every one of them in the offseason, working out at Veterans Stadium on our timing rhythm. You know why? Because we could. You can't do it now, The quarterback has to fly guys out to his home state or wherever he's staying. bring guys in to work out because you're not allowed, you can't practice at the facility. And I always said where I got better was in the offseason with Sid Gilman, with Dick Vermeil, with Dick Wood, these guys that were working with me every single day, throwing 36,000 balls in the offseason. That's correct. 36,000.
How do you know that?
Did you count that?
That's how you get better.
36,000?
36,000 passes in the offseason.
Wow.
That's why, with Carmichael and Quick, and Harold and I actually did this. We put blindfolds on and complete passes. We'd do an O-cut, 5-step drop O-cut, and we'd complete them. It's just crazy because we had done it so many times. We were so repetitive in doing it that it became second nature. Guys don't get that opportunity anymore. At practice we used to practice like 3 hours. You can't practice for 3 hours now. The league has cameras watching practice. You can't. It's the big brothers watching, and that's how you get better. And my favorite line, Dick Vermeil always uses it. No one's ever gotten any better by practicing less. Is that kind of common sense? The more you practice, the better you get. So we were always big on long practices. I shouldn't say we. I wasn't, but the coach was. Spending time. Defensive pass rush drills. I'd go down there with homeboy 85 and, go there with Keith Krepfle and Carmichael or Quick, whoever they were, and Scott Fitzke and run our route tree and, okay, go to the next drill when we're up. So the constant repetition. So if you got a player that's out, you better be spending extra time every single day after practice. And I would, and I know we talked about this. When I was doing Monday Night Football, I literally went to the home team, their practice, either Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and do those production meetings and watch practice. And I learned so much in that 5-year period about other teams and other coaches and how they work and how they practice. And I made the comment that, you can go to a Patriot practice and put a, milquetoast uniform on them, not knowing you're the New England Patriots, and you walk out there going, man, that was a hell of a practice. And you can go to a Cleveland Browns practice, and I won't mention names of who the coach was, you go, boy, that was a bad practice. When the coach is yelling at, at everybody the whole practice, it's disorganized. You can tell. You can just tell. So, when a player is struggling, it may not always be his fault.
Well, I still can't get past 36,000 passes. You guys really wore out the abacus.
Very sore on
in that regards, Ron, from what you've seen the last 2 weeks, and especially there against the Steelers, where they put a lot of points on the board in a loss, and you saw some development with Travis Fulgham, of course. Do you see a different Carson Wentz as far as comfort? I think the mechanics are always going to be what Carson is, right? But at least comfort and having a go-to guy and being able to, keep the passes at a right trajectory. Are you seeing improvement there?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not going to give Carson a pass because I think you have to work on mechanics. And he was sloppy. And if he was here right now, I'd say you were sloppy in your mechanics. And your damn coach ought to get on your butt and make sure you're doing those mechanics right. Your plant leg going the right way. You're squaring it back and driving your throw, driving your hips through. All those nuances of playing position have to be perfect. And maybe just something I'll mention after watching the tape of the game against Pittsburgh, he's still getting too many bodies around him. It may be a clean pocket to the person watching at home and on TV, but I know how hard it is when you're throwing a football and there's someone a couple feet away. It may not be a hit, but it's compressing that pocket, and he's not able to finish his throws. And I'm not making an excuse for him, but the offensive line has to be a lot more firm so when he does have mechanics right, he can drive through that throw and be more accurate with those passes. So, it's a combination of a lot of little things as well. But I will. You asked about Fulgham. I'm sorry I got off on too many tangents. I carried away.
No, keep going.
But, the first tape I looked at 2 weeks, I said, "This kid's the real deal. It's a real deal. He's a competitive guy." And I always say, when I look at kids for the draft, the college kids come out and study the wide receivers. Somebody should hire me, by the way. Although don't tell my wife that I got too many jobs right now to study some of these guys, because this is what I've done my whole life. And Adam knows I did a piece with Peyton Manning last week.
Oh yeah,
Peyton's place about a film study, and we spent the whole day talking about film study. But anyway, back to Travis. What you could just see is a guy that naturally runs routes. And it may sound like the throwaway kind of line. No, you watch him run an O-cut. Some guys drift up the field and they come out. No, he works back to the quarterback. He gives a good angle for Carson to throw the football. And as that game wore on in Pittsburgh, I could just sense Carson was building that trust and that belief because he was where he was supposed to be, not drifting, not being short on a route, coming out of his break sharp. I'm going, this kid is a natural receiver, and he's going to get better. He's going to get more polish, but he's a natural receiver. He's a big body, and I compared a little bit to Alshon Jeffrey. And I'll tell you, I had Harold Carmichael. I know when you have big old catch radius, man, my job's a hell of a lot easier. So I love what I see in that kid. So maybe we should quit trying to draft wide receivers and get some free agents.
It's really crazy. Speaking of Fulghum, when you had receivers come in, and I don't know what they called it back then, free agency, but in the 80s, let's say they brought somebody in. How long would it take to get sort of a rapport with them? Because this rapport that Wentz has with Fulghum is remarkable considering they just got him in August, and the passes are crisp to him, and he's catching it, and as you were talking about, he's right on time with his route running. How long does it typically take to get that kind of chemistry going?
Well, I'd like to say it takes a year, but you don't have that kind of time. I'm talking to get to the way I was with Harold Carmichael and
Right.
Mike Vick, and where we see the field through the same eyes, and because defense dictates the type of route you run and how you break it off and how you adjust when the ball is snapped, all those things, and that takes a long time. But I think in the passing tree, you can go out and run the passing tree. May not be very good at doing it early, but you get better as time goes on, and still put a guy in the field and say, hey, here's your route. It's the adjustments you make on the move that really make it much more complex.
Hey, Joe, when you've watched the tape, is there anything alarming that you've seen from Zach Ertz lately?
The separation just isn't there. Now, hey, I just looked at that Pittsburgh game this morning, and clearly they were focused on shutting him down. But hey, come on. Everyone's focused on shutting Zach Ertz down. Pittsburgh did a good job. And most teams doing a good job right now. And when you don't have the complementary receiver that takes some of the heat off him, he's going to continue to get double teamed. But when he has gotten the single coverage, and I want to be fair about this, when he has gotten the single coverage, he hasn't separated. And there were a number of plays, even against Pittsburgh. There was a couple low cuts where Carson was sailed it a little bit high, but there was no separation. It was a tight throw. So I'm not seeing the separation I've seen in the past out of Wentz. But hey, he's still a very, very valuable football player.
If I can just follow up real quick,
Sure.
The interception that Carson threw on a pass to Ertz, I wonder if that stuck out to you because it looked like Ertz was running his in cut and he ran into the linebacker and people were blaming Carson, but it appeared as if he was throwing on a timed pattern there. Does that stand out to you as who's to blame, or was it a penalty on Pittsburgh or?
No, I think it was an inadvertent contact as, the linebacker was drifting back. And the safety was inside, but to me, it was a bad read. That was the double coverage. And, and you can squeeze some. If you got a great player, you can squeeze in a double coverage because you got that kind of confidence. But, the way I've always been trained and the way I believe, I got a better chance throwing to a single cover guy than a double cover guy. And sometimes there is those situations where you just trust it and you rip it and make the throw. But I think it's a lower percentage throw when you're throwing in double coverage. So I would have rather seen him go somewhere else. And by the way, on the Fulgham plays, the plays that he was great in, there was one play that wasn't made that I think would have been changed the whole game.
30-yarder downfield, that one?
No, the one he didn't throw.
Yeah, he didn't throw it. Okay. He didn't throw. Okay.
He had a stutter go up the left side with 4:59 left. Eagles are down by 2. This is a drive before Jake missed the kick. And I have no idea. I mean, he's hot. I mean, Travis is, Fulgham's hot. He's catching everything. They give him a double move. He stutters at about 10 yards, and he is 4 yards behind the corner. And you saw the pump from Carr. He pumped, but then he came off him. And I have no idea because it was a touchdown. I know it was not an easy touchdown because we've seen Carson miss Miles Sanders earlier this year on a play that would have been a touchdown, but he beat him. And it was a designed double move, and he came off. So the one play that they didn't make is the one that disappointed me the most.
Does Fulgham look explosive when you're watching his tape? Does he look fast? Like, what kind of receiver does he look like to you? He looks like a natural X to me, by the way, with his size.
He doesn't look fast. And if I'd make a comparison, he's a big, lanky guy. He's a long strider. And I would make comparison from my era to Harold Carmichael. Harold Carmichael, when he started out slow because he was so big, but once he got going, my God, one stride was 5 yards. And you could just see separation the further you got down the field because of big galloping strides that he had. He was just creating separation. I think Fulgham's that kind of guy. The more he runs down the field, the bigger the separation becomes.
Going back to what you said on Carson, because I remember the Cincinnati game sticking out for a couple of reasons. One, Deshaun Jackson was wide open at the 2-yard line, and Carson just never even pulled the trigger, even looked at him and didn't. And then later in the game, Ertz on lined up in line but explodes out, makes kind of a deep post. He's open, and Carson doesn't throw the ball, and he's looking in that direction again. Adam has talked about it also, the idea of not seeing the clear picture being the term. This is different than mechanics. So I'm wondering how a quarterback, in your viewpoint, goes from being able to be able to correct that. What causes someone all of a sudden to not see a clear picture?
Everyone is different, and your comment is right. I say at that time when he was struggling, I said he was not seeing the field with clarity. That play was designed to get the ball to Deshaun Jackson, and he popped open. He was right there. I can't tell you why Carson didn't throw it. Only he can tell you, but I'm just saying he didn't see it. He didn't see it, or else he would have thrown it. Now that's when you start getting a little bit bound up. You start pressing every throw. That's when the mechanics get a little bit off. Because as the game wore on against Pittsburgh, I saw more of a fluidity to his game. I think you could almost sense his confidence coming back. The throw he made down the middle of Fulghum was phenomenal. I mean, just a phenomenal throw. Split safety look. He had about an 18-inch radius to get that ball into, and he did. And it was a great throw. And you know why? He had the conviction to make that throw. It wasn't one of those, I hope it gets there. It was just the confident throw. And as that game was going on, I just sensed his confidence was growing just as I was watching his arm get more lively and his mechanics get better.
Jaws, from sort of a macro standpoint from their offense, what do you think of the scheme design? I know they were better this week. In fact, they scored way more than I thought against Pittsburgh. But overall, through 5 weeks, from an offensive schematic standpoint, because I know you look at that, route running, route combinations, what do you think of this offensive scheme design so far?
Yeah, it's been limited because it has to be limited. When you look at the injuries that have been sustained, it's hard to change the game plan from week to week. You always put in 5 or 6 gadgets that you're going to use in this game specific to the Steelers defense. And by the way, that Steelers front 7 is very, very good. They create a lot of different looks for you. Their corners are awful. They're going to get lit up. I'm telling you, I don't know what happened to Joe Hayden, but he can't run anymore. But their corners are going to get lit up. Someone with a very efficient passing game is going to light that secondary up. But back to the questions, it's hard to put a lot of new things in when you got so many changes in the offensive line, the receiving core. They just want to be careful and go back to like the dirty dozen, those 12 things you hang your hat on, those 12 plays that everybody feels comfortable with.
Joe, I'm glad you had said that about the Steelers. I was going to make the comment that the Steelers have a good defense, but they also blitz a lot, so they give you opportunities to make plays. On Sunday, they're going to face another good defense that I feel does a better job of also they have good corners like Marlon Humphrey, but they almost play a great style of team defense, the Baltimore Ravens. They're very tough, very physical. What kind of challenge do you think the Eagles have differently this coming week against that Baltimore defense?
Well, obviously, this is a very huge challenge. This Baltimore team just might be the best team in the NFL. It just might be. I mean, there's a long way to go, but this is a very talented team. And Marlon Humphrey might be playing as about as good a corner as you could play in the league right now. He's a fantastic football player. And we all know the Ravens historically, with Ozzie Newsome and that group, and even with, John Harbaugh, they built their team on defense. So they come in here with a strong defensive team. Lamar Jackson's changed their whole identity offensively. I mean, they're going to move the football because they can throw the football well. He boots out of the pocket a lot like we saw, almost like Jared Goff, but Lamar is 5 times the runner Jared Goff, but he'll get on the perimeter like Goff did and have success. But what they do is they have great balance. I mean, their offensive line, they want to knock your block off. I mean, that's their whole goal. They'll bang Ingram up in there, and they'll get the power running game going. They'll make you anchor inside, and all of a sudden they're outside, with Lamar either throwing, running, or distributing when he gets on the perimeter. So obviously they have excellent wide receivers. Andrews is a tight end that makes a lot of big plays. So they are a complete football team. It's not like stop their offense or we can move on their defense. They're a complete football team. If the Eagles want to win this game, they have to bring their A+ game.
Joss, staying on the defensive side of the football here, everyone's up in arms about Jim Schwartz and his game plan against Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh really moved the ball very well, almost at will sometimes. You've studied Schwartz. This is now year 5. Where you're at with his defense is they won a Super Bowl with this guy, but everybody's up in arms. What do you think about the defense so far this season in Schwartz?
I have a hard time defending this defense and the makeup of it. And I'm, I don't pull any punches. I think, Schwartz's defense is basically built on the Jim Washburn old style wide 9 and attack upfield and all that. That's okay. That's okay. And you can see what the strength of this defense is the defensive line. That's where they spent the money, and that's the strength of the defensive team. However, you can't just ignore the linebacking core in today's NFL. And Nathan Jerry's been getting crushed. I mean, Pro Football Focus, I just got their statistical profile on Nathan Gerry. He's been targeted 23 times. There's been 23 completions. Yeah,
brought that up the other
67 yards. 23 for 23 against him. He's not a good cover, linebacker. He's just not. And you look at it and watch television, watch the tape, you can see it. He struggles in his pass coverage. So the Eagles have never spent the money in that area. And when's the last All-Pro we've had? Jeremiah Trotter. It's been a long time since we've had a stud linebacker. And today's linebacker has to be able to play the run. He has to be able to play the pass. He's got to be able to blitz because people are spreading you out. And if you have a weakness of defending in the passing game, you will get exposed. What happened it was just the defense. What bothered me about the play with Gerry and Claypool. I mean, I'm watching the game on TV as Joe fan, and I saw Ben the minute he put his hand out here, I knew he was audibly. And if I would have had a close-up camera from maybe that end zone, I would have seen a big smile on his face.
Exactly. I knew you were going there. I knew you were going there.
What are they doing? They got a linebacker who's been toasted. They got a wide receiver in Claypool's toasting everybody, and they're going to try to match those two up with a split safety look. And you look in Roman, what's the nickel?
McLeod?
Yeah.
Roddy McLeod, yeah.
What's that?
Roby Coleman? Oh, Nicole Roby Coleman.
Oh, Roby Coleman.
He's looking, and he's doing this, like, get back. But again, if he backs up, underneath route, he's got probably a choice route on that play. Take the middle if it's there. There's a hole in the middle, take it. If the linebacker drops deep, come across his face, and we'll get the first down that way. So it was a bad matchup, and Schwartz put him in a bad position. And it's a coach's job to put his players in a good position. But here's the problem that I go beyond that. Once they saw Ben audible, Ben saw it. Change it. Go to single high. Do something different. Get that middle hole taken care of. Do something different. This is pro football. You practice hours every day. Quarterback audibles. You know why he's audible? He read your mail. He read your mail. You know what you're doing, and that's exactly what he did. But you gotta be able to adjust, quickly adjust. Once Ben audible back. Change the defense.
So, Jaws, it's a copycat league, right? And the Eagles gave up a lot of points to the Rams, who are known for their misdirection, their jet motion, their play action. And then last week, you see Brandon Ayuk score kind of a, not a trick. It's a quick screen. He gets in. He's a movable piece for the 49ers. And then this week, or 2 days ago, what you saw was the Steelers, who don't use that much of it, all of a sudden they're doing, as you mentioned, Claypool and then Ray McLeod. And I just watched the tape. They had a lot of jet motion as well. It feels like the book is out on how to attack the Eagles. They're playing more man defense. They don't have great linebackers, don't have great tackling safeties at the moment. And I just wonder if there's a way to supply a tourniquet when your personnel is doing you in like this.
I don't know how many tourniquets they're going to need. Here's what happens. You come into the season, it's 2020. It's been the craziest, most bizarre, not only in football, but in everything. And all of a sudden, week one, week two, there's no preseason game. There's no type on what people are playing, what they're doing, how they're running their offense, how they run their defense. Week one goes by. Week two goes by. It's a copycat league. Everyone sees what's been effective against your team. And all of a sudden, they saw Jared Goff, slice this Eagle defense up with movement, getting outside the pocket. So you see a little bit more from Cincinnati. They weren't a big team with that. All of a sudden, they're doing it. You're going to see a lot of this from Baltimore because they have weapons to do the jet sweep, the bubble screens, the reverse pass. So when you show that you're weak against those things, oh, baby, you better strap it on because here it comes. Or you better make those corrections or you're going to see more of what beat you in the first 4 games.
Charles, one thing on offense here, what will Deshaun Jackson's return potentially this week? How much could that speed on the outside help this offense?
Well, the name of the game is speed. That's what the NFL is now turning into. And Adam, it's arena football, and you covered arena football.
Yeah.
You get a couple stops, you're going to win the game. So speed is really what it's all about. And when Deshaun came back, I thought it was a fantastic move. It was the one thing the Eagles needed was that speed guy. And he's still fast. He can still run, but he can't stay healthy. Father Time gets us all. And, he may play a quarter, he may play a half, he may play 3 games. I don't know, but you can't count on him right now. That's the issue that when he's healthy, he's a dynamic football player. But how long are you going to have him? I don't know that. No one knows that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the big question we have now, Jaws, in the bigger picture is, after Baltimore, they could very well be 1-4-1. Then they get a couple of division games in a row. The division's not very good, but latter half of that schedule, Green Bay, New Orleans, Cleveland has been playing well, Seattle, and all those teams that can run the well and attack the middle of the field. We've seen the Eagles turn it around so many times. I don't know how many times they can go back to that well, though, with a schedule like this.
Yeah, but Geoff, 5-10-1 is going to win a division.
Well, that's what I'm going to ask you. I mean,
you have to get to 9. I mean, this
oh
is,
my God!
You can't be happy with that, though. At the end of the day.
And you know what? When Doug came in that first meeting with the team, what he put up there? The goals for the season. Obviously, the last goal is win the Vince Lombardi Trophy. The first goal is win the division. That's the first goal every team has as what their objective. Win the division. Who cares if you're 5-10-1 or 15-1? You win a division, you get a home game in the playoffs, and maybe you get healthy. So Doug's selling these guys right now. Doug's a great salesman. He loves that underdog mentality. I haven't lost any faith in Doug whatsoever. I think he's a terrific football coach. But this season is going to be a weird one. It already is. But you think about what this team's going to have to do to be a world champion. Now, hey, I think it'll be a playoff team. I really do. To be a world champion, you got a long way to go. And I was going to mention, the 49er game was like 8:20 2 weeks ago. So this is a nice football day. I get to watch the Giants. They're awful. Watch the Redskins. I know a Washington football team. I can't let that go. They're awful, yet they beat us. I watch the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going, 8:20 comes around. I'm watching the Eagles going, oh my God, this is a playoff team now. The division is so bad. It's the worst I've ever seen the NFC East. The NFC East used to be the pride of the National Football League. New York, Washington, Philadelphia, Dallas. My God, it's awful right now.
So, Joe, tell everybody, you told me that you're going to start your own podcast. Is that correct?
Going to be starting my own podcast in a few weeks. I've gotten into this podcast stuff. I like just having these open dialogue conversations.
Yeah, we hear it's a good thing.
It's going to be
yeah, exactly.
A little bit differently. We're going to go to the gaming aspect of it. I understand people do wager a bit in these games, and historically, my pick's been pretty good. I think right now I'm Jason. What am I? 30. I got Jason Jones here, my assistant.
Coffee's
there.
57% win.
57% against the spread. 57% win.
Oh, that's pretty good.
4 games. So, people are making some beer money on some of my picks, and I have no science to it except what my eyes tell me when I look at the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to look at the matchups, and been pretty good about it. I had the game last night, 28-27. Saints, it was 30-27, so pretty close. And I give the score, I give everything, and you decide what you're doing. So the podcast is going to be kind of geared about that. I've already got Peyton Manning coming on one of my earlier podcasts, and I was with him last week filming the Peyton's Place. So he'd love to come on and do it. I got a whole bunch of people lined up, and
nice.
Look, this guys that love football, folks that love football, and love talking about football, and it'll be fun.
What's the name of the podcast?
I don't think we have a name for it yet.
Okay.
The Jaws podcast.
I just wanted to give somebody. I'm just trying to be a good promoter here, Jaws. That's all.
These fancy people are talking about like intro music and all that. So
right.
Let's go.
All right. Well, everybody should look for your podcast when it's out.
I'll guarantee you it'll be entertaining. If you like the wager, it might even be better.
There you go.
Well, there are a lot of people that like
Yes.
the wager, and as most people know, this podcast itself is brought to you by DraftKings, the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code ITB for a special offer when you sign up. That's code ITB for a special offer when you sign up at DraftKings Sportsbook. Jaws, thanks so much for joining us, dropping some knowledge, talking some Eagles. We really appreciate it, and I hope that you'll come back on ITB TV sometime down the road.
I would love to do it, Geoff. Always great being with you and Adam. We go way back, so it's always good to talk a little bit of history.
No doubt. We'll get you on for the playoff preview for when the 5-10-1
Eagles,
when the 5-10-1 Eagles face whoever they're facing in the first round.
Host the Packers or something, you know?
Yeah, right.
Sounds good, Jaws. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
and,
guys.
We'll
Be
talk to you
safe.
soon.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, you've been watching ITB TV. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.